I'd like to welcome all of you to, what is it, session 6? Yes. Parks and Recreation, otherwise known as the fun department. But that's not really fair because they do work very hard to bring a lot of great events to our city, as many of you I'm sure have participated in throughout the years. And you'll hear plenty about that, of course. So I, of course, have a special sentiment for this because this is where I came from, Parks and Recreation. I was on the Parks and Recreation Commission for what, 6 years, 5 or 6 years before I got on council. So it's a great department. It's a great part of our city. We like to say one of the things that we tend to do right in our city, and that is the programs that we have in our Parks and Recreation Department. So without further ado, because she told me to be short, I'm going to introduce Kathy Burrows, our Parks and Rec Director, and she will lead the evening. So there you go. Thanks, Kathy.
What Tom failed to mention was he even but started in Parks and Rec even earlier than that as a board member of Temple City American Little League. We were involved in cooperative efforts between the league and Tom as a board president and later the district president or district administrator, not the administrator, but involved in District 13 using our facilities. So there's been a long relationship between Tom and the Parks and Recreation Department. With that being said, welcome. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look at some more displays out there and get something to eat or drink. If not, you'll have a chance a little bit later. We want to go through our slide presentation rather quickly because we do have an exercise we're going to have you do. And then we want to allow time for you to come back and do some tours of the facilities as well as wrap things up. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our Parks and Recreation program. One of my favorite city managers, who happens to be in the room, made a statement when he first came that Parks and Recreation Department is in the business of making memories. And I think that says it very well. I would bet probably everyone here has at some time or another in their life, either themselves or their children, been involved or participated in some kind of Parks and Recreation program or been to a park. Yes? No? Pretty much everybody. My personal memories, one of my earliest memories as a child, was going down the street to the local elementary school, playing on the playground equipment, of course, but also making those silly craft popsicle stick projects, which my mom somehow found something to do with. At the time, I didn't realize that was Parks and Recreation, but it was. One of my other memories as a child, my father, when we were growing up, worked for Griffith Park, for the LA City Parks and Recreation Department. Was a maintenance groundskeeper. And what he would do, my sisters and I would, every so often, we would get a chance to go with him to work. Seemed like it was the middle of the night, but it was probably 8 o'clock at night. We were little at the time. This was before there were automatic irrigation systems. Sorry. So he would have to go and, on the golf course, manually turn on each station to water the golf course at night. Loved it. You know, we just got to drive around in the truck with him. Look out for the skunks on Griffith Park. But again, those are the memories that I have of the parks and Parks and Recreation. One of the things before we get too far into this, I don't do anything without my staff. In Parks and Recreation, and I'm sure it's in every other department, the staff is what makes your programs, your facilities great. If we don't have top-notch staff, then there's no point doing what we do. So I want to introduce our staff real quick. I'm going to start from left to right over here. Far left, you would stand up, please, when I introduce you, is Sayo Elizalde. He is our park maintenance lead worker. He is in charge of making sure this park and Temple City Park are maintained. Next to him is Mike Cosby, who is the Parks and Recreation Coordinator. His main office is over in the Community Center. Next to him is Roman Rodriguez. He oversees our senior programs and fee and charge classes over in the Community Center. Debbie Ingram is our administrative coordinator. She does just about everything. I'm not even going to go into that. Most of you know Debbie. Next to her is Frances Manzo Pimentel. She does our youth program, Stars Club, Teen Zone. This is her facility. She's responsible for this facility. Juan Pasillas is one of our senior recreation leaders. Juan is Frances's go-to guy and keeps all her staff operating. Did I forget anybody that's here? So, thank you all for being here. If at any time you have questions, please just feel free to raise your hands and we'll go through it. Parks and Recreation Department is comprised of 4 divisions or program areas: Parks and Facilities, Recreation Programs, Public Transportation, and Trees and Parkways. We did Trees and Parkways with third session back in June, so we're not discussing that today. Those staff are not here. They participated in the other one, so we do have another few staff that aren't here that would normally be here. Before we get in, we're going to do a little description on each of these and talk about them a little bit more in detail. Before we do, one of the other things I want to mention and give credit to, we do have a Parks and Recreation Commission that works with the City Council, providing recommendations on policies and procedures and programs relative to the Parks and Recreation Department. We also have a youth committee that was instituted a couple years ago. And our youth committee, it serves their junior hires or high school students. They have to be Temple City residents or in the Temple City School District. They meet monthly and they talk about and discuss issues relative to the youth, and if need be, they will make recommendations to the council. So we do have a commission and a committee that we kind of oversee in the department. All right, parks and facilities. We have 2 parks in Temple City. That's it. This park here, Live Park, and Temple City Park up by City Hall, where most of your sessions have been. Temple City Park is a 4-acre passive park. Passive meaning?
No active programming.
No active programs. It's a very calming park if you've been up there most of the time, not always. There aren't any set activities. There's not a basketball court or a tennis court. It's a small neighborhood park, picnic shelters, a little playground, grass area, passive park. It is also home to the Performing Arts Pavilion. On Wednesday nights in the summer, there's nothing passive about that park. 1,500 people crammed into that park, dancing around to the summer concert music. I mentioned it has picnic shelter, playground. It is also home to the Walter P. Temple bus down on the bottom corner. That bus was installed in conjunction with the city's 50th anniversary. Was started with the city's 50th anniversary. Program, the sign and the bus were finalized about a year ago. So that has been in place. Great addition to the park. Let's see. Moving on, Live Oak Park. This is our main park in the city. Heavily used, in particular during soccer season. We're right now just starting up football season. Little League season ended last week. So we're kind of in between. It's a little bit of a downtime right now, which is good. Even though you probably had trouble finding parking, this is a slow day. This is home to the Live Oak Park Community Center, the Live Oak Park Annex. We have a concession stand, playground and fitness equipment, basketball and tennis courts, lighted athletic fields, and picnic shelters. The community center is available for rental by nonprofit organizations only. It is not available for private rentals. So if you want to have a birthday party or a wedding reception here at Live Oak Park in the community center, you cannot do it. It is only for nonprofit organizations. We will book the facility a year in advance, and we have the facility booked a year in advance. In particular, during December, a lot of holiday parties for nonprofit organizations. We are open, by the way. Live Oak Park is staffed every day except Christmas and Thanksgiving. Maintenance staff as well as recreation staff on duty 363 days out of the year. We do have, in the Live Oak Park Annex here, is our teen facility, and we'll get into that a little bit later with our programming areas. It is home to our teens, and we will give you a tour, but this facility, obviously, the room you're in, there is a lounge over there that you're welcome to go into where the teens can just hang out. There's TVs, games, pool tables, and then administrative offices are on this side. Our entire department staff is housed down here at Live Oak Park. We do not have offices at City Hall. We're all down here at Live Oak Park, and it makes it a lot easier, more convenient, at least managing staff-wise, to everybody being able to find it. Concession stand is used by our sports organizations. Little League, Youth Football, AYSO all use the concession stand. They do pay a fee for the use of the concession stand as well as for the lights for the athletic field. Just real quick, a couple things. Our playground and fitness equipment is relatively new, was installed in well, not really that new anymore, 97. getting pretty old. Our fitness equipment was installed in 2009, not too long ago. A lot of these, and we'll get into again just a little more detail, a lot of these facilities here were either funded or partially funded through grants. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Picnic shelters, heavily booked. You can reserve the picnic shelters a year in advance. Anyone, resident or non-resident, can reserve the picnic shelters, and they are booked easily, at least on weekends, full year in advance. The individual picnic tables throughout the park are first come, first served. I want to give you just a little bit of brief history about Live Oak Park. The city assumed responsibility of the park back in 1961. This used to be a county park. So when the city incorporated, I'm assuming, because I wasn't involved back then, that we took over the responsibility for the park. In 1967, the top closest tennis courts to us from here were open. So they've been around for quite a few years. Interestingly enough, in 1971, Standard Oil conducted drilling here at the park. They thought there might be oil underground. They did some drilling, unfortunately didn't find any. So we're still not rich. In 1971, the council, the city decided to ask for public input into expansion of the park. Prior to then, the park ended where Glickman comes into the park there, in between the tennis courts. So where the ball fields are, were homes, was not part of the park. The city, through a long process, acquired those properties and looked to expand it, and so they asked for public input as to what should be on that part when they added it on. 4 years later, in 1975, the expansion project began, and I'm guessing it took a couple years. I, again, was just starting back then. In 1977, Temple City American Little League, along with the city, built the snack bar. That is down there now, although it has been renovated since then. And in 1978, the council adopted regulations for the park, including no domestic animals, no bike riding, no alcohol, and they established the hours, which are from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. 78, the other tennis courts open. 97, we got our new playground we talked about, not new anymore. 98 was when the community center was completed. 2003, we did major renovations to most of the park. Put a whole new field in, tore out all the old grass, leveled it, put new sod in, replaced the picnic shelters, put in new picnic shelters, a new maintenance shop, new basketball courts. So everything other than buildings and the tennis courts was pretty much redone in 2003. 2009, we expanded the snack bar. The council at the time didn't want to tear down the old snack bar because it had been built by volunteers, Little League, and a lot of people in the community. So we left the existing building, worked with an architect to add on and to expand it without compromising the existing building. Also in 2009, I mentioned our fitness equipment was added, and 2010, this building was completed. So there's history of Live Oak Park in a nutshell. You might want to remember these things because later on, as your hands on, you might be asked some of these questions. Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts. Park maintenance, what do? Park maintenance staff provides resources to operate and maintain Live Oak and Temple City Park. They provide comprehensive landscape maintenance services for the two parks. They manage private service contracts, and they coordinate with the capital improvement projects. Now, what does that mean? To operate and maintain Live Oak Park, we have 4 maintenance staff, including Sio. He's got 3 maintenance workers that work with him full-time and a part-time maintenance worker that comes in for extra duties. We do have maintenance staff on duty 7 days a week. So we have a maintenance worker that works weekends as well as the regular weekday guys. We also have recreation staff, part-time recreation leaders that work as well as full-time staff during the week. But we do have staff on here until 10 p.m., 7 days a week. Part of the responsibility of our recreation staff is to enforce the park rules and regulations. We talked about no bike riding, no dogs in the park, no alcohol, those kinds of things. And that is their responsibility to enforce that, as well as to make sure the park is operating smoothly. If there's somebody that has a permit and another group that doesn't, and there's conflicts, they have to deal with those conflicts. If there is an accident or injury, and we had an incident just before this, I understand. Individual got hit with a tennis ball, and we had the paramedics out here. They need to make sure they're aware of that and fill out the necessary reports. So it's a very important job. As well as that, they need to operate and take reservations for the facility. They do setups in the community center. So it's a very important and busy task. The maintenance staff provides comprehensive landscape and maintenance services. Obviously, just like your backyard, you need to put work into it. The grass grows, you gotta cut it. You gotta fertilize, you gotta seed, you gotta plant flowers, you gotta pull weeds. It's constant. My backyard looks nothing like Level Park. Much worse. I want to clarify that. I wish my backyard looked like Level Park. But it's an ongoing, never-ending process. One of the issues and concerns we have, and we'll get into this a little bit at the end of the slideshow, we have a lot of groups, a lot of individuals that come to the parks for exercise, which is what we want them to do. But it limits what we can do maintenance-wise and cleanup-wise if there's always people in the park. One of the issues we found, and it's happened because of the changing demographics that we're learning to deal with, we had a lot of Tai Chi individuals that have formed groups that are in both Temple City Park and Live Oak Park. When the guys need to get there first thing in the morning to clean up and blow off the picnic shelters, or to wash the picnic shelters, we have to find a way to creatively and positively encourage them to go somewhere else so we can do that. So it's a lot of customer service and making sure the community understands that we need to clean the park for everybody's benefit, and that the users understand sometimes we might need to move a little bit so we can get the park clean. So it's always a challenge. Science and staff handle it very well. And for the most part we work around people, but there's sometimes when we can't do that, and that's when we need the community to work with us and to make sure they are willing to help us make sure that the parks are maintained. Private service contracts, you learned there, I believe it was your very first session, Temple City is a contract city. We do contract for some services here in the park. We have a company that does the janitorial cleaning for the buildings, both buildings, the restrooms. We also have private service contracts for our HVAC maintenance. We don't have individual staff that have that capabilities. Also for some things such as we have fire alarms and burglar alarms in both buildings, as well as video cameras. There are cameras in this room, so we are kidding people, by the way. So if we have a test, we'll be able to tell who's cheating. Everybody's looking at the cameras now. One of the main reasons we have them in this facility, because it is a team facility, we felt it was important to be able to see, Francis in particular, to see what's going on in different parts of the building, because we can't be everywhere at all times. We also have cameras on some of the exterior parts over by the restrooms, the picnic shelters, community center. So there are cameras throughout the park. Capital improvement projects range anywhere from building new buildings like this to smaller projects. We have to resurface the basketball courts and the tennis courts every 5-7 years. Those are capital improvement projects that take a little bit extra time and effort. The bottom one shows the monument sign and the Walter Temple bus being installed up at Temple City Park. All right, just want to give you some facts, just the facts here. Live Oak Park, last year we had 185 picnic shelter reservations. We had over 1,000 rentals in the community center. This is in 1 year. $20,000 were brought in facility rental fees, which is a 115% increase from the previous year. That amount will go up significantly again next year because the City Council recently adopted a new fee schedule for the parks and the recreation programs. We'll touch on that just a little bit later on. We have 800 plus hours of reserved use of the tennis courts. That is a new policy that the council implemented just under a year ago to allow private rentals of the tennis courts, which has brought in $4,000. Our average daily attendance here at Live Oak Park, people out in the park throughout the day, varies anywhere from 600 to 2,000 easily. So there's a lot of people here at the park. 250,000 people estimate visit this park every year. We have a lot of contact with the public, probably more so than any other department, just by virtue of what we do. There's always contact with the public. The last one, I just want to put that in your mind a little bit. Temple City has half an acre of park per 1,000 residents. The national standard is 10 acres per 1,000 residents. We are significantly below standards, but the likelihood is we're a built-out community. We're probably not going to get a couple more, another, what do we need? 999 acres of parkland. So what that means is it challenges us to look at other ways, joint use agreements, making sure these parks are constantly renovated and well maintained, and looking to expand our open spaces, which we'll get into later on. All right, let's talk about the recreation programs a little bit. We did the parks, let's move on to recreation. We provide services and activities that contribute to our residents' quality of life through the following areas: teen programs, Stars Club, day camp, be in charge classes, seniors, special events, sports, and volunteers. The one thing that I think every staff member in the Parks and Recreation Department understands and basically lives by is we are not a required service. People don't have to come and participate in Parks and Recreation programs. They have to pay a dog license. They have to pull a building permit if they want to build something. They don't have to sign up for classes. They don't have to come to community events. So we need to do our job well enough that people want to come to our programs. I want to continue coming and pass the word around. So we constantly live under that philosophy and that goal that we want people to want our services. So, teen program. Teen program was developed in 2000 to address an unmet need. At the time, we had our after-school program for elementary age children, but when they got to be junior high, we had no more programs for them. We were getting a lot of requests from parents that, had gone through our STARS program, our after-school program. There was nothing at the time. The school district did not have a quality care program at the high school, so there really wasn't anything for the junior high kids to do. And many parents weren't comfortable leaving them home alone after school or during the summer. So we started developing a program for teens. It started, I believe, with just a few special events. Spring Fling, I think, was our first one. We were a little bit overwhelmed and surprised at how many kids signed up for our very first Spring Fling. It was
305.
over 300 kids, the very first one. That said, wow, we need to do something. So we developed a program. We were trying to work with the schools because the ideal situation would be, hey, let's have a program on the junior high, so after school the kids can just come to the junior high. They didn't have any facilities. It wasn't able to work out. So when this building was built, we decided, let's make this our, a facility for our teens. We now have Teen Zone here. In the school year, we have about 55 regular children, I should say children, teens, that sign up for Teen Zone. They can either come here on their own, be dropped off, or we will pick them up from their school and bring them here to Teen Zone. So we do provide transportation. In the summer, that number goes up to over 100. 110, I believe we have right now, 115. If you're here during the day, we kick them out at 6 o'clock. They leave at 6 o'clock, and we kind of usher them out a little bit early so we can set up. But there are tons of teens here during the day. What do they do here? Well, a lot of what they do is socializing. That's what junior high kids do. They want to socialize. And we understand that. We don't develop this program the same as we do our elementary program because we know those youth aren't going to want to do the same things. They do have planned activities. There are calendars, and I think there's some out here if you want to look at. So the staff develop calendars of activities that will happen every day. But there's also, I mentioned we have our lounge over there, our day room. They just want to hang out. And it's a safe place for the parents to send their child where they know they're going to be supervised. It's not the same level of supervision that we would have for elementary age children. It's just general supervision, but they're in a safe location. We also have dances for our teens. Twice a year we have a Halloween dance, and we have still our Spring Fling. We do field trips with them. Regular field trips, especially throughout the summer, but we also have little mini trips that our staff work with the kids. Where do you want to go? And we'll take a van load of teens to the mall, or to bowling, or
Movies.
to the movies, different places. They pay their own way in. We provide transportation and supervision. So it's a great program, and we're very proud of it. It's building throughout the years. We've had this going now a couple years in this building. So we're looking to even add more. We were a little concerned. We've had some issues that come up. And I'll never forget when I ran it by our city attorney the first time. I think he almost died. Some of the questions that the staff get, they get very close with the teens. And we have had teens approach the staff and ask about contraception, sex, all this stuff. And so I'm asking the city attorney, okay, how far do we go in this discussion? And he's like, oh my gosh. But those are the issues that we deal with, that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. A lot of times the teens are much more comfortable talking to a staff member that they're familiar with as opposed to their parent. In case you're wondering, what do we do? We try to encourage them to talk to a parent or a school counselor. We're not counselors, we know that, we're not claiming to be, but, you know, there are situations that come up. One of the things I do want to mention, Parks and Recreation staff, because we work with children, are mandated by law to report any suspected child abuse. If a child comes up to us, which they do, usually we get 1 or 2 a year at least, reports that their mother beats them or their father abuses them, we have to investigate and we have to call and report that. So we are by law required to do that, and we do take that very seriously. Stars? Yes. Yes.
For these teens, you mentioned these are junior high, right? Do you have any program for the high schoolers?
We have tried, and in fact, last year for our school program, we set aside up until 6 o'clock for junior high, from 6 to 8 for high schoolers. We haven't really gotten any of them to come around and hang out or to develop programs for that. We are still working on that, but we just haven't had the response yet from the high school students. So that is something that we still want to work on, and Francis is working with the staff on developing some type of programs or trying to get the high school students more involved.
So did I hear clearly for the high schoolers, you guys set for 6 o'clock in the evening to 8 o'clock? Am I correct?
Last year we did that. I don't believe we're doing it this year because we had none that participated last year.
Okay.
If we get calls and requests, then we can certainly do that. This building is open until 8 o'clock anyway, or well, it can be. We're budgeted to staff until 8 o'clock. Obviously, if there's nothing in the building, we close down and the staff go home. But we can do that if there's a need, and if people request it, then we would certainly do that. Yes.
Probably because most high school students have after-school activities at the high school that they're involved in, so that's why they would not come here until the later hours.
Yeah, and that's true. And, you know, we may be looking, you know, at least to get them more involved as maybe some type of event or special program for the high school age students to get them more involved. And then from that may develop more of a program. But again, most high schoolers, because they have their own transportation, they can drive now, at least some of them. They've got a little more freedom than the junior high students. STARS Club is our after-school recreation program. Stands for Self-Esteem Through Activities, Recreation, and Sports. This program was developed in the early 90s. Prior to that, well, as far as I can remember it, I've been with the city since the 70s, late 70s. We used to have a drop-in recreation program. Almost every city had it. You know, your kids, they went outside after school, you hung out with the rec leaders, you could go home if you want, no sign in, sign out, no fees paid, it was just very casual. When I mentioned in the very beginning, I went down the street to the school, that was the same thing. Now, back in the 70s, 60s, even the 80s, it was a little bit more acceptable for the kids to wander home, hang out, not hang out. Things changed. Society has changed. And we found late 80s, early 90s, we weren't getting attendance. The parents weren't comfortable because they didn't know if their kids were there. We couldn't require them to stay, and the parents didn't sign them in and out. That coupled with our, seems to be almost annual now, that time there was a huge problem with the state's budget, and the state was starting to take away city monies, so Temple City had a budget deficit. The council at the time said, we can't afford to fund this after-school recreation program. The director at the time, was not me, came back and said, council, if we can make this program pay for itself, can we continue to offer it? And the council said yes. And so there was the STARS program came because of that. It is fee-based now. It is a sign-in, sign-out. The parents have to sign their children out. They need to report into the recreation staff after school. We have emergency cards on every child that list who is allowed to pick the child up. And so it's much more structured than it was. During the school year, STARS Club includes homework time. We allow half an hour of homework time. It's not an educational program, it is an after-school recreation program, and we want to keep it that way. We want to stress that to the parents. There are plenty of academic programs offered already, and our philosophy has been if someone else is doing it, we don't need to duplicate services. So this is an after-school recreation program. They have half an hour of homework time Monday through Thursday. Then they do games, crafts, sports, field trips, all sorts of recreational activities. They have calendars as well as Teen Zone that says what activity is going on what site. We have our STARS Club at Cloverly, Emperor, La Rosa, Longden, and Clemenson schools. They are open from when school gets out until 6 o'clock every school day. During the summer, we usually have 1 or 2 Stars Club locations. One is usually where summer school is being held, and then another location. During the school year, we average about 240 per session. That's at the 5 sites. So each site has probably 30, 40, 50, some of them up to 60 students. In the session, we average about 160 per session at 2 sites.
What's the cost of Stars?
The cost this coming year has gone up. It is $100 a month. This summer, it is
$150.
no,
$210 for each
$210.
of the sessions.
$200. It's $200 per session for a 5-week session. One of our other programs is our day camp. We used to have summer day camp. Now we have only the holidays. Spring break and winter break, we have day camp, usually held here at Lino Park. Our day camps are themed. This one was Survivor. We all have got the little Survivor bandanas. We had Survivor-themed activities for the kids. We kind of, during the spring, it was Fear Factor, so you can see we kind of go off of these reality game shows sometimes. Keep that in mind, by the way, coming up later. We average about 50 to 60 participants per week, and again, they have planned activities. Fee and charge classes. What's a fee and charge class? These are programs that are not taught by city staff. We have independent contractors that teach anything from ballet and tap to karate and violin. This is where the Parks and Recreation Department, if there's an area where we cover our expenses, is fee and charge classes. The city contracts with an instructor. The instructor gets 70% of the fees that are paid. The city gets the 30%. That helps cover the cost of the building, staff costs, equipment costs, setup and tear down. Our annual enrollment is between 2,500 and 3,000 participants. We have 40 to 50 classes per session. Some classes have different levels. So you may have an intermediate, a beginning, and advanced. So over 100 selections per session. We list some of our popular classes there. And we are always, like enrollment, are always looking for class instructors. If we can work it into our facility. Our facility's heavily booked though, especially in the evening hours, then we try and work in new classes. All right, I'm going to work through this faster, we're running out of time. Seniors. About a year and a half ago, we started a senior lunch program. Prior to that, we've had senior programs, but they were somewhat sporadic, let's put it that way. But with the senior lunch program, we now have a built-in clientele that come every day to Lino Park for lunch. The first year, we served over almost 6,800 meals. We had our regular daily lunch program attendance up to over 100 every single day. What happened, because this is funded through the county, we contract with the YWCA San Gabriel Valley to operate the senior lunch program. They ran out of money because we had so many participants was part of it. So we're now on a quota. We can only serve 65 meals per day, which we sell out of every day. So we have regularly 65 people here for lunch every day. In addition, San Gabriel Valley YWCA, along with the city, provides case management for seniors. Seniors may need help with legal advice, hospice care, a lot of different issues relative to the older adults. So they do provide case management services that we coordinate through the city. We have a senior wellness series every Thursday, or the last Thursday, I believe, of every month. Yeah, that one right. We do have a series of talks for seniors. They range anywhere from, let's see, this month, or coming up in August, this is probably one I need to participate in, memory loss and aging. It's put on by the Alzheimer's Association. A lot of different ones, and this is great because we get our local, whether it's vendors, healthcare providers, businesses that help us put these on at no cost to the city and no cost to the participants. Coming up in September, we have Living with Type 2 Diabetes, October retirement planning, so a lot of different series for our seniors. We have special events. Picture up top, last June we did a senior luau. The seniors had such a great time. I know Jerry was here, and I'm sure some other people might have been here. We had a barbecue out in the patio. We had entertainment. We gave out leis, and the seniors had a great time. We do monthly excursions, at least 1 or 2 trips a month. Some of these trips are really cool, by the way. I didn't know you could go to some of these places. So if you get a chance, when you go over to the community center, look at the trip list. There's a lot of great trips out there. Recently, we started bingo once a month. We don't play for money, we don't have a bingo license to do that, but we do gift cards and other prizes. Finally, at the bottom, every year the City Council selects an older adult to be the outstanding older American for that year. That person is usually selected because of their volunteer service in different capacities. At the bottom is Mr. Louis Paletta, who was last year's Older American for Temple City. In addition to the city recognizing our Older American, they're also recognized at a function through LA County. Special events. This is where most of the people participate, honestly. We have a list there of all our different programs. Right now, we're in the middle of our summer concert series. Debbie coordinates the concert series. I know I've seen many of you at the summer concert series. If you haven't been, Wednesday nights, Temple City Park between 7 and 9, we have, in my opinion, one of the best concert series around. A couple weeks ago, we did our Campapalooza. What is a Campapalooza? Tom, we turn Live Oak Park here into a campground. We have families that come out. This was started several years ago. Actually was the recommendation of one of our former council members. Wish it was mine, but it wasn't, and I'll give credit where credit is due. At the time, I thought, really? Who's going to come and camp out at Live Oak Park? Let me tell you. People came out and camped out at Live Oak Park, and it is an extremely fun event. A couple weeks ago, we had, I believe, 75 families that pitched their tent out on the field. We had activities throughout the evening. They can start pitching their tent at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, spend the night, and 10 o'clock the next morning, they're gone. Great event, a lot of activities. Dining Under the Stars is coming up in a couple weeks. We have restaurants. Debbie works with the restaurants in town, and they come and provide samples of their restaurant fare. So it's one of these cooperative things. We hope the restaurants get the word out. People may not know that they're in town. We encourage them to bring their menus and information so people get to know what restaurants are in town. Our Fall Festival is a cooperative event between the Temple City School District Performing Arts Club and the city. So we work with the Performing Arts Boosters to plan this event. Halloween Carnival for our little kids here at Live Oak Park. Lights on Temple City is our kickoff for the holiday season. We have a little parade that goes down Las Tunas, snow in the park, all sorts of things. Lunar New Year, we would normally work with the Temple City Chinese American Association to plan an event for Lunar New Year. We have an Arbor Day event here at the park every year, and our Easter egg hunt and breakfast with the Easter Bunny. These are our main ones. There are other ones we have throughout the year, but these are our main events. For most of these, our attendance averages anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 for every event. So looking at all these, our numbers for our special events are very high. These events also take a lot of time and effort to plan and coordinate them. If we do our jobs right, you don't see an event. You don't know if something's going right or not. You don't see us. It just happens magically. That's how we want it. But it does take a lot of time and effort and from our staff as well as volunteers to run all these events. Youth sports. Mike's statement there, our sports programs teach lifelong skills. The character building opportunities learned on the courts and fields are endless. He had a lot more in there, but I had to cut it down because one slide per program. Here's some numbers for our programs. One of the biggest things I think that has helped us recently, Mike started a mini sports program up there on the top one. Mini, meaning little. We got 4 or 5-year-olds up to 6, 7-year-olds that start participating in our sports programs. T-ball, flag football, soccer, basketball. What we found when we started doing this is the attendance in our older programs went up as well because the kids start young, they get good coaching, they realize, hey, sports is fun, it's not all competition, and they stick with it. And so we found that it's kind of like if you're, no baseball, for instance, it's like kind of like the minor league system. You've got a farm system where you build your kids. We have participants coming from Burbank, all over the place that come to our mini sports because there aren't a lot of cities that have a small mini sports program. Basketball is obviously, by and large, our largest program. That has continued to grow. Last year we had over 450 youth, which was about 90 teams, I think, Mike, that we're trying to play in one gym. Well, 2 gyms. Let me tell you that. 2 gyms. We have a joint use agreement with the Temple City School District, and we use, because the city does not own a gym, Oak Avenue and Temple City High School gym for our basketball games. But even with 2 gyms going all day on Saturday and almost every night, it takes us a while to get the 90 teams playing a good schedule. So basketball is our most popular sport right now. We have a great volunteer program. Debbie coordinates the volunteer programs. Right now, we have probably a current database of about 250 active adult and teen volunteers. They help with special events. We have volunteers that do provide translation services if needed. They help with clerical assistance. A large part of them help with our senior lunch program. And then to thank our volunteers, we have every year a volunteer appreciation luncheon. Service hours have increased over 150% the past 5 years. In 2007, we had a good volunteer program, over 2,000 service hours. Last year was over 5,400. A large part of that is because of the senior lunch program, but more so, we're finding that more and more people want to get involved in the community. We have adult volunteers as well as high school students that need their community service hours, so we try and accommodate them. If any of you are interested in volunteering, see Debbie. We can always find a place to put you. Our facts for the recreation programs in 2011-12, 55% of our expenditures were offset by user fees. Not bad. You know, we realize and the council realizes that recreation programs are never going to be fully self-supporting. Can't happen. Well, I guess it could happen, but not likely to happen. But bringing in at least half of our cost in fees really helps support the programs. 25,000 individuals participate in planned recreation programs annually. We mentioned before we probably got 250,000 that just come by the park. We have 25,000 that participate in planned activities. Most of those, 15,000, are at our community events. The rest are either fee and charge classes, that's the Stars Club or Teen Zone, sports, senior programs and trips, but most of them are involved in community events. I have 25 families in our database. What does that mean? Several years ago, thank goodness, the city decided to go to an automated, computerized registration process for recreation programs. Prior to that, somebody would want to sign up for a class, they come in, we hand write their name on a handwritten roster, take their money, hand write a receipt and give it to them. It's computerized now. Thank goodness everything's computerized. So we have a database, our computerized software program that we use for all our programs to register participants. Right now we have over 2,300 families in that database. About half of them are Temple City residents. The reason I put this up there is we don't just have residents that participate in our recreation programs. We have a lot of people from outside the community that participate in Temple City's recreation programs. This is all done with 9 full-time staff. We have about 50 part-time staff, recreation aides, recreation leaders, senior recreation leaders. Those part-time staff are the hardest working people I've ever seen in my life. I started as a recreation leader. I know how hard it is to do that job. You have parents that are calling you, contacting you. You've got to deal with sometimes, I know none of us here have, but there are some bratty children out there that need to be disciplined. So they have a very difficult job. They're also usually the frontline staff at the counters here and at the community center. They have to go out and enforce the codes out in the park. So our part-time staff are so very important to us. We have about 20 contract instructors. Those are the ones that teach our fee and charge contract class. They are not city employees, but we do have to process contracts with them and get them paid. And our 200 plus volunteers. That's who does these programs. Real quick here, we also, the Parks and Recreation Department is responsible for public transportation. And I believe in your second session, you learned about different special funding sources. This is one of those special funding sources. Proposition A was a half-cent sales tax passed back, I believe, in 1985 that can only be used for transportation programs. Every city gets a set amount, well, an amount based on their sales tax. For Temple City, there are Proposition A and Proposition C funds. Proposition A funds are normally used for these transportation programs. Proposition C for your capital improvement student projects. So with these funds, we fund our Dollar Ride program. We currently have about 1,200 Dollar Ride members. Dollar Ride is available for senior citizens or persons with a disability. And transportation is available anywhere in Temple City for any reason and to the surrounding cities, Arcadia, Rosemead, San Gabriel, and El Monte, for specific locations only. Government buildings, medical appointments, those types of uses. Every month, the Dollar Ride programs provides approximately 1,700 to 1,800 rides per month. Also funded is our bus shelter maintenance. We have advertising and non-advertising shelters in the city, you may have seen. The majority are non-advertising. The city maintains those through a contract, because we're a contract city. Advertising shelters, we not only get money from the advertising revenue, we also get, we don't have to maintain them. So that's kind of a win-win situation. The city subsidizes bus passes for Temple City residents. Those are sold up at City Hall now. We no longer have responsibility for that, but it is part of the transportation program. So if you are a Temple City resident, you can get a bus pass for less than the face value. We offer youth and adult excursions. The bus portion, the transportation portion is funded through Prop A. We are, the city council and the staff are looking at a fixed route shuttle trolley that we will hopefully be putting out to the community sometime after the first of the year. The idea is to have a fixed route shuttle similar to the MTA buses, but on a different route, hopefully a trolley type, that would be available to anyone. Minimal fee, probably 25, 50 cents. We're working on the route at this point, and we will most likely be having public meetings and trying to get input onto what the best route is for that. So we're just in the beginning phases of that, but hopefully next year you'll see a trolley going around town. All right, so what are the challenges and opportunities in Parks and Recreation Department? The first one we've already talked about is lack of park space. We have how many acres per thousand?
Happening.
Half an acre roughly. The standard is 10 acres per thousand. So we know we have lack of park space. One of the opportunities the City Council has funded and will be working on this coming fiscal year, a park and open space master plan that will look at not only our existing facilities, but also where can we put some pocket parks, some small other parks. What other types of things can we do? And we're going down to, I'm going to skip down to the bottom one, limited and aging facilities. We have joint use agreements with the Temple City Unified School District. We need to develop these agreements and possibly other ones so we can use other facilities if we're not going to be getting a lot more of our own. We're not having less people coming to the park, it's more and more every day. So, we need to deal with that issue. And our Park and Open Space Master Plan is the first step in that. We know we have changing demographics. It gives us an opportunity to look at our programs and see, do we need to revise them? Do we need to provide new programs? Interestingly enough, when we got into this process last year, we started looking at the demographics in our programs and found that we're pretty inclusive. We've got a wide range of all ethnicities in almost all of our programs. But with that being said, we still want to continue to make sure we're providing opportunities for all segments based on ethnicity as well as age, gender, everything else. Make sure we've got equal programs going on. Funding is always a challenge. I'm sure everybody knows that oftentimes Parks and Recreation programs are the first to go and they need to be budget cuts. We're not mandated, we're not required. I will say in my 20 plus years in Temple City, the City Council has always been very supportive of the Parks and Recreation programs, in particular our existing council. With that being said, we also understand that the council cannot 100% support and fund all the recreation programs, so there has to be an offset. User fees are a good offset, and we know that about half of our costs are offset by user fees. Our user fees were just recently increased this past year. The council, and I think you heard this in one of the earlier sessions, authorized a cost of services study, which basically said, what does it cost for operating every service in the city? We knew that our Parks and Recreation programs were not paying for themselves, but the council, basically the council dictated that most of the cost should be recovered at the full cost. Parks and Recreation programs were the exception. You have to look at other things as well in the Parks and Recreation programs. So that was the second phase of the user fees that was recently implemented by the council a couple months ago. And so our new updated fees have gone into effect as of this summer. We also use grants a lot, in particular for our renovations, our CIP projects. Grants were very plentiful in the late 80s, early 90s. There seemed to be a Park Bond Act on almost every ballot in November and June and anyone in between. Those aren't coming anymore. So the grants for park improvements have dried up pretty much. So every once in a while there's one on there. So we're having to be a little bit more creative looking for other types of grants. We talked about our limited and aging facilities. You know, this was a county park, it's been here since at least before the 60s, so we have to continually renovate it and update it. One of the questions we are most asked is, why did you take the rocket ship out? What happened to the rocket ship? How many of you know what I'm talking about? A couple of you. The playground out here before 1990, whatever I said it was, 6, when the playground was renovated, there used to be one of those big giant, probably, I don't know, 40-foot tall metal rockets. Not ADA compliant. Couldn't keep it there. You know, there are laws and regulations that regulate things. So we had to take it out. It's, you know, for want of a better word, almost historical. Every child that grew up in Temple City probably played in that. My kids did. My kids would be the ones that would go to the top of the rocket and not come back down. So someone had to go climbing up after them. But anyway, we had to take the rocket ship out. You know, again, it no longer was able to be here because it didn't meet certain requirements. So once we start doing renovations, we have to meet those requirements, whether it's ADA or updated electrical codes or whatever it is. So the rocket ship is gone, by the way. It's still down at the city yard because the council wouldn't let us get rid of it at the time, so it's still laying out there somewhere. But it's no longer.
Kathy, you may see it in a future art project.
And this comes back every so often, and I hate hearing it. So anyway, we have to continually renovate our facilities to keep them, you know, updated. We can't have old equipment, so we try to do that. All right, let's get into your assignment. I've talked long enough. I mentioned a little bit, if you're paying attention, maybe yes or no. We love reality shows here. Debbie and Francis are our reality gurus. If you want to know anything about any reality show on TV, those two probably know the answer. So, we're doing The Amazing Race today. We want to give you a quick tour of the park, and part of that is going to be The Amazing Race. Francis is going to explain how you're going to do this, but real quickly here, you're going to need to divide into 3 teams, or we will divide you up into 3 teams. We know how to do that real well. You're going to get a map. You're going to have a staff person that will go with you just in case you get lost or think you're not coming back. They're going to make you come back here, but they're not going to help you with anything. You're going to complete roadblocks. If you know what Amazing Race is. How many of you know what Amazing Race is, what I'm talking about? Anybody seen it on TV? Uh-oh. Okay. Well, you're going to learn. You're going to get puzzle pieces along the way. If you complete the challenge or answer the question correctly, you'll get your puzzle pieces. When you've completed the whole route, you're going to come back here, and we're going to dismiss. Well, we're going to have a little quick wrap-up. You're going to get, if everybody completes it, we're Parks and Rec, so there's not necessarily winners and losers, although there really is. Everybody that completes it gets a little bag of goodies. So make sure you come back here. You're going to get a map, each team, that tells you what you're going to do and where you're going to go. You can't get lost, but don't try and leave and go to your car. Hey, I need to go check something in my car. You need to come back here. Okay, so Francis, it's up to you. You're going to explain to them what they're going to do here.
Well, I think you already pretty much explained it to her.
She's the most talkative thing until she gets in front of a group.
Yeah. Tom, you want to talk for me? Tom always gets me out of this talking to public stuff. All right.
You're on your own.
Okay. I can go ahead and divide you into 3 groups, or you can choose to divide yourselves. Which would you like us to do?
Just divide them up.
Okay, who knows Amazing Race?
How many are present tonight? How many of us are here?
Oh, they don't have to be equal teams, don't worry about it. Who knows what the Amazing Race is? Raise your hand, keep it up.
Yay!
All right, team captains.
1, 2, 3. Turn the yellow. Okay.
Come up here, those of you that are team captains, because you need to get your stuff.
I've seen The Amazing Race.
All right.
Don't open your mouth yet.
Don't open it yet.
Don't open. Okay. You want to be on her team?
Team 1.
All right.
Wait, tell me, who's team 1?
We leave our books here, right?
You can leave your stuff here.
Yes. Cynthia will be team 1. And your name? Jorge will be team 2.
Guy.
Guy, team 3. Why don't I have them 3 follow Debbie, and then I'll just give you guys your numbers and you start there. So you'll be
Okay,
1.
team captains go for half a mile. So if you ran it, you just ran half a mile. Good job. Then we don't get to call in sick for the next week because you ran. All right, so thank you for participating. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about Parks and Rec. Hopefully we'll see you all out here at the park regularly. Sign up for a class, participate in a program, get out and exercise, encourage your kids to get out and exercise. Next session. Brian?
All right, next session is economic development. We need to talk about the date and location. 2 weeks from today is actually Dining Under the Stars, and just to let you know, I know Serge and Crystal are going because they just won the raffle, as well as Sui Tan. So we're going to have to move that date. We were thinking the week after that, so it would be August 23rd. Just wanted to see if that was okay with your schedules. Okay, so this one you don't, for economic development, you don't have to run. Don't worry. But what we're going to do is we're going to take you around the city. We're going to talk about some of the development projects that you don't know about that are happening. So we promise it'll be interesting. We'll also take you to some of the vacant storefronts and we'll tell you what's working and what's not working and what the city's plans are for the downtown. So we will then see you on the 23rd. The other thing is, thank you for those that have provided the pictures. We're actually going to be closing out this year's Academy on September 18th. It's just a formal award ceremony with the City Council. So put that on your calendars. We'll be presenting you a plaque. And then talking a little bit about essentially what we're going to be doing with your pictures is sharing with the council the themes that you've provided and make that as a segue into giving us some idea for what are the things we need to look at as a city of organization on the projects and other initiatives. What you guys do like, we'll try to improve it even more, and what you don't like, we'll look to address that. So September 18th at the City Council meeting. So that's it. So Kathy, any closing comments?
If you didn't sign in, Peggy asked to please make sure you signed in. I think almost everybody signed in. There may have been one or two, so please don't forget to sign in. You're welcome to, I know we kind of rushed the tour of this building, and I know some of you kind of ran through the community center because you wanted to finish first. So you're welcome to, have a little bit more relaxed tour, look around and see what's going on. Ask any of us questions. All the staff are here if you have questions. I know Cy had opened up the maintenance shop, but some of you probably ran right by that too and missed it. So now's the time, now that the race is over, relax and enjoy. I think there's still refreshments out in the patio. I think the displays are still up, so it's not quite 9:15. If it's the school, we're not going to let you go, but I don't think it's school, so I think it's
I know you sent us an email, but where are we meeting at, that next classroom starting at?
We're gonna be at the that's a great question. We'll be meeting in front of City Hall.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, any questions?
And we'll get you an email out on that too.
Yes, Jerry.
You and your staff have, been around a long time.
Thank you.
What is your biggest wish list that you would like to see besides pocket parks and more park space? What would you like to see here?
I think it depends on who you ask.
Gymnasium?
Gymnasium. Francis?
Gymnasium.
That'll get you.
Well, gymnasium, you think gymnasium, but slash like a playhouse, like we got stage, you do plays and stuff, for performing arts.
So
Stuff like
gymnasium on
that.
stage.
So just another multi, but a gym, like a gym, we want, I think most of us are gym,
We
yeah.
would love to have a gym. I think also, we need more space storage-wise, and that's something that we have to look at. If you look at the buildings, not a whole lot of storage, not a lot of office space. When we moved all our offices down here, we had a lot more space before. So, storage is one of the things that when you build buildings, you really don't think too much about. And, one of the things, and I will say, and I don't mean this as an excuse, but I wasn't involved in the design of the community center.
So I was gonna say, if you ask the women, then you will get storage.
Yes. One of the biggest problems on the community center, I don't know if anybody noticed or not, there is not a double door in that community center. We had a Coke machine that was being removed today. They couldn't get it through the doors. I don't know how it got in, but they couldn't get it out through the doors. Getting tables and chairs through single doors is very difficult, and we have to bring the tables into the large rooms from another closet. And because there's no double doors in the buildings, and it's just very difficult. So it wasn't really planned out when you're thinking of operationally. And so not a double door in that building, which is not a good thing. We've ordered tables and table carts that we have to disassemble and bring in the building because they won't fit through the doors. So those are the little things that we learn. And so when we're looking at new facilities and building new buildings, I try and involve everybody that's going to be involved, from the maintenance staff on up to the programmers, because you need to get that input on how you're going to design these buildings that are going to meet everybody's needs. I think we all wish we had a gymnasium We love using the school districts, and we're very grateful that they allow us to, but there's so much more we could do if we had our own. We're limited in how many hours we can use, because obviously the schools need to use it during the daytime. If we had our own gym, we could expand our programs and maybe do adult leagues. We don't have necessarily that capability right now. So a gymnasium would be a good thing. You know, I don't know other than that. Obviously, you know, creativity myself, so I can come up with new programs.
If you're looking at planning though, I mean, you're looking at the 7 tennis courts, would it be a good idea to possibly take out 3 tennis courts and put a gymnasium there?
We have talked about that, and does anybody know why we have 7 tennis courts and 1 or 2 basketball courts? Several years ago, and some of you may know this, on the council, when this park was expanded and taken over, one of the council members that was very vocal was an avid tennis player. And he championed for tennis courts at the park. And so because he championed them, and it was important, and the Temple City Tennis Club was coming around, and a lot of things were happening, there were a lot of tennis courts built where there wasn't that outcry for basketball courts or ball fields or things like that. So that's why there were already 3, and then they added more tennis courts. In my opinion, not the best use of space. Usually, only 4 people max can use a tennis court at one time versus other facilities. So it takes up a lot of space, not a lot of, I don't know. You don't get a lot of people, not a lot of bang for your buck. So yes, that has been one of the suggestions. We have made recommendations to the council. What happens is, and this even happens at the commission level, is there's varying opinions on whether anything more should be added here at Live Oak Park. Everybody knows that the park is heavily used here. It's our only active park in the city, and in fact, it is a regional park. We have people from many other cities that come and participate here at Live Oak Park. So to add a gymnasium and the programming that goes along with it, a lot of people think would be overtaxing, including the residents that live around here, an already heavily used park. From our point of view, from a programming perspective, there's ways that you can mitigate that by planning programs in a gym during a non-peak time for the rest of the park. So there's ways that you can mitigate that, but there hasn't been a consensus yet. That's one of the things that we'll be looking at as part of this Park and Open Space Master Plan that we talked about, exactly those kinds of issues.
Would it be like a performing arts pavilion? I mean, not pavilion, but a performing art, multi-purpose. I mean, a gymnasium and performing arts.
Yep. In fact, we had a preliminary design several years ago. We looked at, the council actually looked at several different vacant facilities or parcels at the time, one of which was in the industrial area down on Gidley off of Temple City Boulevard. It was a vacant parcel, large enough to accommodate probably another soccer field as well as a gymnasium with a stage in it, multi-purpose facility. Unfortunately, before a decision was reached, the property was sold and the warehouse was built on it. And so these are the challenges. The council and the commission and staff, I know, are all very supportive of acquiring property for open space, and I think there's probably enough support on the council to fund that. But how do you go about doing that, or what parcels do we look at? Oftentimes you see a parcel and say, oh, that might be good for a pocket park, but by the time you get through the process and get it to council for approval, it's been sold. So that's what we're going to look at as part of another step of the Park and Open Space Master Plan is, do we need to set up some kind of function or format where, you know, the council says, okay, here's the requirements we want. If you find a property that meets all this, then city manager, whatever, you have the authority to spend X amount of money so we don't have to keep going back and forth to the council and letting properties get away. So it's going to be a lengthy process. We will have a lot of public involvement, and I'm hoping many of you will participate in that involvement because whenever we do these master plans, we need your input. The community has to participate in these projects or there's no point in doing them. And so that's why, you know, when we did a Live Oak Park master plan back in the early 90s, had a lot of participants, whether they were the in-charge instructors, we had the sports groups, we had a wide variety of people involved, and they basically set the outline for what we were going to do here at the park over the next 10 years. We have done almost every one of those projects, and a lot of the ones that I talked about earlier, the renovations and the new field, the new picnic shelters, those kind of things were all part of that master plan. So it wasn't that we just said, oh, let's do this. There's a master plan that we went through a community process, and we followed that plan to get to that point.
Thank you.
All righty, if there's any other questions or comments, thank you for coming. Thank my staff for being here. We've all enjoyed having the last couple hours with you, and hopefully you've at least had some fun and learned a little bit, and thank you for coming.